For those new in the world of anime, brace yourselves for a series that's too hot for the screens, much like the heat brought by Nicki Minaj, the queen of rap. This anime is a hot sensation, just like Nicki's chart-topping hits. Get ready to be swept up in this anime with excellence, filled with romance and comedy. It starts kind of saucy because the anime opens with a guy standing at a podium, surrounded by over 1,000 milk jug bearers. They called him the Commoner Sample. I think it's an all-girls school, or I hope it's not a system for reproduction because if it is, that would just be crazy. Let's ride back a little. Kagura's Akiya Kimito, our main man, is the lowest of the low, a very nice and ugly-looking guy that girls love to use. He was sent out by a girl to get a drink, but then he was rounded up by some questionably acting guys. I thought they wanted to bust his buttocks Diddy style, but they just dropped him off at a school's gate. When he looked up, a lady in a maid dress. She introduced herself as Koju Miyuki. She tells him that henceforth he'll be attending Seiken Girls' School as the only guy. Normally he would pull up like this, but we know there's a lot of sauce coming up. She took him straight to the school's president, Kamachi Sayuri, who's super excited, and explained to him why he was the chosen one. Apparently, this is a school for the elites, or better yet, the daughters of the elites. They are trained to be top-tier behavior, but there's a little problem. Once they graduate, they're faced by the gruesome truth of the outside world, which can be soul-crushing. And I'm not gonna lie, life outside school has been a roller coaster of weird emotions, especially the rich today broke for the next 3 weeks phase. To change things for the better, they decided to introduce a male commoner to teach the girls how common life is. Just in case you thought he was an outstanding commoner, nope! He was chosen because he's the commonest of the commonest, like an NPC blue shirt guy. His height, his face, and top it all off, his fetish for masculine muscular guys. Bro is in a school of only girls, and he's tainted to be gay. Kimito tried to explain that he's not gay, but when he was told that he'd be kept away in the sewers and his glorious baby-making machines would be cut off because the school is a super-secret society, now that he has agreed to be gay, they introduced him to his class. Arisugawa Reiko, the class rep, introduced herself, and oh my, does she look like a sweet snack? His phone rang, and Miyuki pulled it out, and I was shocked that all these girls had not seen a cell phone. They all rushed in to touch it like it was a rare gem they found in a cave. Reiko then says they should return it to the owner, but just before she handed it over, she decided to write an appreciation letter, fix it up in a gift box with the phone, and present it to him. They mistakenly touched hands, and her hormones got the better of her. She almost fell, and Kimito Spidey sensed a tingle, and he immediately swooped in like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and saved her from falling. Before we knew it, he was yanked away by Aika. She took him outside, got him on the floor, climbed on top of him for a cowgirl session, asked for a kiss, and this virgin, who has never come in contact with a girl's lips, both the one you see and the one underneath, literally rejected the kiss. She began to roll on the floor because she believes that it makes her more of a commoner. Reiko and 2 other girls showed up. They said they were worried and looking everywhere for Kimito. They tried to talk to Aika, but she bolted away. Apparently, she does not talk to anyone. After the school day was over, Miyuki showed him to his room that they spent a lot of money to make it look like his room at home. She also told him that she's been assigned to be his maid, but she won't do anything for someone as common and as ugly as he is. Aika came in shortly after and told him she'd do anything to be a commoner. She thinks everyone will dislike her when they get to know her. Kimito pulled out a Show Me Enjoy station. She confided in him, and he told her she'd be just fine. She fancies being a commoner and immediately declares them both members of the Commoners Club. It's only his first day, and bro has already bagged 2 10 out of 10 chicks, 23 years and counting, and I can't bag a chick higher than a 4.5. The next morning, this lucky delinquent woke up to my ideal idea of a morning wake-up call, seeing big, juicy milk jugs when I opened my eyes. He gets up, though Miyuki wishes he fades away into the hands of eternal slumber in his sleep. She tells him that as he is made, she has to get him all ready in the morning. At the speed of ninja, she took off his shirt and folded it. At the same speed as a ninja, she took down his pants and folded them. She's got to do all this though he's a commoner, a loser, and a muscle-adoring pervert. Kimito heads to school with his maid. He runs into Aika, and they run away from the dormitory because the girls would surround him if they caught a whiff of him. On their way to school, he told Aika that normally, commoners don't have maids tail them. He'll tell her about the common life, and she'll tell him about the elite lifestyle of the school. Aika tried to refer him to Reiko, but he said he'd prefer her because Reiko makes him nervous because of her aura and the sweet milk jugs on her. Aika, on the other hand, she's okay. She punched him and stormed ahead. They met Reiko at the class door. She invited them to a welcome party that she had arranged for Kimito. Now, isn't this girl doing too much just to get him inside of her? Aika acts up as usual and does not answer Reiko. She just runs in and sits in her seat. During PE, everyone is amazed by the elegance of Reiko's form during long jumps. She set a record, but it was easily shattered by the Gaylord because, LOL, he's a guy. Aiko did horribly though. Reiko is the school's pinnacle of excellence, and she's the epitome of elegance. Everyone, I mean literally everyone, wants to be like her or become lesbian for her. I, on the other hand, would like to be an isekai there and bend her into so many different imaginary positions, but sadly, only that useless virgin will do it soon. After school, he heads to the party with Reiko and other girls swarming him. They were all admiring the useless and formless jump he used to break Reiko's long jump record. Then he asked where Ikawa was and addressed her as Gal. He tells the rest that commoners usually refer to their female friends as Gal. Well, I don't do that, do you? Reiko tells him that they never get a reply from Aiko, no matter how they try. She says that Aiko has already opened her heart to Kimito, but you and I know that it's only a matter of time before she spreads her legs like butter on bread. They get to the party, and in true commoner form, Miyuki whips up a cup of ramen for him to eat at this star-classy party. We know cup ramen has a tantalizing smell. It didn't take much for all the girls to want to have a taste of his meat. Oh, sorry. I mean, they wanted to taste his cup ramen. In less than a few seconds, Reiko steps up and suggests that they split it so everyone will have a taste. The ramen was shared with everyone in noodle sticks per plate, and they savored it. Next was a dinner dance. Reiko just loves being the center of attention. Or else, can you explain why he's in a suit and she's in a white dress? And I can swear that this does not look far from a wedding. She just loves to fix up fancy parties, she said. They danced, and somehow it turned out good. Back at his room, Aika came to visit, and then she stumbled on the world's greatest animation graphics called manga. Without further ado, she went through every manga the guy had, and even tried to practice the superpowers she saw in it. Later that night, Kimito caught a glimpse of Reiko's true form without her clothes on as she was trying to leave the shower. Normally, one would avert his eyes, but this very lucky and stupid guy took his time to imagine her in a short skirt like that of Aerostar and pop socks to match. The beauty of the curves and the alluring look in her eyes would be a power so destructive that it would make a Kamehameha look useless. The next day at school, she kept mumbling about things about marriage, and I guess it's about how she starts trying to fit his meat into her. A new character is about to be introduced. Her name is Shiodome Hakuwa. Two maids walk down a hallway, and one tells the other that from that moment on she would be Hakuwa's maid. Hakuwa eats exactly, and according to a timetable, not a moment later and not a meal different. She also has to be dressed by the maid. Why does it feel like a lady with destructive, seductive curves is being incubated in that lab? Guess who woke up one morning, got dressed, and realized that no matter how popular he is, he's still stigmatized, all alone, and into Hakuwa writing things at the bottom of a statue. That was not what caught his attention. It's the fact that she began to strip right in the middle of the road. He tried to get her covered up, but he had to drag her to his room so he wouldn't look like a huge pedophile. When they got to his room, he told her to quickly put her clothes on. After accusing him of stripping her, she informed him that she couldn't put on her clothes. He helped her put on her clothes, then her stomach growled. He quickly whipped up his finest ramen like a chef from Food Wars. Normally, she doesn't eat food that's not on her food table, but after tasting this ugly cow's ramen, she finished the whole plate, and apparently this lucky ugly monkey is actually good at cooking. I just remembered that when he woke up this morning, he got a text from his mom. Miyuki almost spilled the beans about him being gay, and he also found out that as part of the deal for him to enroll in the school, his family house was renovated and built in spring. Back to Hakuwa, after ingesting all that food, she immediately took a power nap, woke up, and started inscribing words all over Kimito's table, and at the same time, she was taking off her clothes. He tried to stop her, but just then, Aika came in, and you know she'll call him a perv after seeing that. Later, he escorted her back to the lab. When they got to the entrance, a maid received them, and to her greatest shock, Hakuwa ate food that wasn't on her food table. Kimito turned around to leave, but Hakuwa held back his clothes and told him to stay. They agreed that he'd come visit her sometimes. When he left, the maids that look after Hakuwa had a meeting, and they discussed how Hakuwa, who never wanted anything but her studies and was without clothes while she studied, was holding back Kimito and ate food that was not on her food table. Kimito was walking peacefully on his own, with Reiko, who wants to spend the rest of her life with him, thrusting his jewels deep inside of, okay, that way out of line. Cue Karen, who's walking around with a katana around her waist. She spots a fly and starts swinging her sword around Kimito. The poor boy merely made it alive, only for the girls around to confuse Kimito as the bug. Kimito takes the cue and starts attacking Kimito, who, despite his plain NPC self, dodges the blade for his life. She pulls an ultra spin blade attack. Instead of hitting him, all the girls around get hit, and all their clothes rip off. She launches another attack, and this time, it leaves both her and the poor boy in their undies. The stupid girl didn't stop there. She kept on attacking, and after unleashing another Shikatana move, she shred all of his clothes off and his big Johnny was all up in her face. She admitted defeat and declared him her master. After school, Aika comes over to his room for a round table meeting between the members of the Commoners Club. She comes up with a brilliant idea of throwing a party, and now she needs over 100 cell phones. Next, we see Hakuya sitting on Kimito's lap, and do you see why I haven't made a single joke about him pinning her down and violently shifting her womb with his rod? The only shift that should be done relating to her is moving her play dolls to a different playhouse. The phones arrive, and they all gather around to take pictures. Oh, I forgot. I was keeping this episode celibate, and I forgot to mention that Karen came by and casually threw around the saying that she has to be by her master always, and the stupid dumb master can do anything he wants with her. Guys and girls, she said nothing. A redo of the healer level of violent pounding is what I'm thinking. So, the next day, Kimito's friend Hani gets herself on a radio show. It turns out she's a secret idol and voice actress. After her segment ends, she's grumbling in the bathroom because Kimito praised her voice in the most awkward way possible. Meanwhile, she checks her phone and finds a message from Kimito saying everything's running smoothly at the academy. Cut to Kimito waking up with Hakuya lying beside him, completely naked. When she wakes up, she casually announces that she's hungry. Take a look at that flat chest, though. No pointy stuff, nothing. Together, they decide to whip up a potato cake. Kimito can't help but appreciate how hard Hakuya is trying to cook, but before he can compliment her too much, she's struck by inspiration and starts doodling on the walls. And as usual, she begins to whip off her clothes. Once they finish cooking, they sit down and munch on their masterpiece while Hakuya throws some riddles at Kimito. But instead of keeping it simple, he goes full-on Sherlock Holmes, looking for the deeper meaning in what has hands but can't clap. After their lunch, Kimito accompanies Hakuya to her lab, where the other maids notice how differently she acts around him. They're saying goodbye when Hakuya suddenly says she wants to stay with him forever. But Kimito reassures her they'll hang out again tomorrow. Later, Kimito finds a stuffed animal in his room that looks exactly like him. Hakuya catches on and gets so embarrassed she locks herself in. Meanwhile, Reiko, Karen, and Akiya gather in Reiko's room for a tea party, but the only thing on the menu is jealousy. They're talking about Hakuya's special treatment, so they decide to confront her. When Hakuya strolls into Kimito's room, not finding him there, she tries to leave, but Karen stops her by shutting the door at ninja speed. Hakuya, showing the attention span of a distracted goldfish, dives into a manga instead. So, the girls bring out the big guns, her favorite snacks. Finally, she takes the bait and starts eating. But as soon as she's done, she's back to her old tricks, stripping and doodling on the walls. They try to stop her. Eventually, she passes out, and the girls realize Kimito's daily life is basically a constant battle to keep Aqua's artistic streak from turning his room into a modern art museum. After she's taken away by her maid, the girls feel relieved, only for Hakuya to drop a riddle she learned from Kimito. Akiya nails it instantly, leaving Hakuya speechless. Score 1 for the tea club. The next day, Kimito's chilling with a dating sim on his Nintendo. Akiya barges in. He casually explains that Hani voiced the character, and Akiya, curious, takes over. She ends up getting all flustered and focused, forming an unexpected bond with the pixelated girl on the screen. Suddenly, the intercom calls Kimito to the president's office. Akiya's still glued to the game, so he leaves her there. Reika comes in and sees all the manga covers featuring girls, and throws some serious side-eye at Akiya, who deflects by awkwardly trying to read until Rhea gives up and leaves. Kimito, our beloved manly man who's supposedly into men, had a chat with the Academy's director about a fancy new field trip destination. In response to Kimito's curiosity, the director excitedly revealed their creation, an all-new theme park called Shengland, a place where these pampered, refined young ladies could finally experience the commoner's way of life. Think of it as a Cinderella Goes Urban kind of trip, except these girls were still expecting glass slippers instead of flip-flops. Now, you'd think they'd just be touring a simple village, but nope. The director made it sound like a giant cultural experiment. And Kimito, of course, got his usual warning to not pull any funny business with the girls. The big adventure began. Upon arriving at the park, all the girls were buzzing with excitement, and so were we, because we'll be having a good old milk jug fest. Reiko and her squad couldn't wait and took off exploring, while Akiya was determined to surprise everyone with her ordering skills. She started rehearsing what she'd asked for at the food stall. They stepped into this massive room with a projector, and BAM! The floor transformed into an elevator. The whole thing rose up, and there they were, looking out at a surprisingly normal cityscape. Kimito was not so amused by the make-believe city the school made, but the girls were losing it over mundane things like pedestrian crossings. Their first stop was a fast food joint that was clearly a nod to McDonald's, just like they did with PlayStation. Show me enjoy, station my buttocks. And here's where it got really funny. The girls were told they'd have to place their own orders and wait until their food was ready. Kimito explained it all, watching as Reiko bravely stepped forward, squinting at the menu like she was reading a death note. Akiya remembered her super-secret burger order, stepped up, and shakily asked for a teriyaki combo with Cola Zero. But her nerves got the better of her, and she blurted out something in the lines of a pizza, mixed with an omelet. Kimito swooped in, suggesting a simpler order, before Karen picked a combo that came with a toy. Afterwards, Kimito noticed Akiya had plopped herself at a lonely table like a rotten tomato. He sat beside her, munching on his own burger. Akiya took a bite, and for the first time in her life, she tasted heaven. Meanwhile, Hakua, back at school, wandered around looking for Kimito. Her maid informed her about the trip, and it felt like her whole world came crashing down. Back at the park, it was game time. The girls stumbled into an arcade, greeted by flashing lights and stuffed animals galore, while Kimito tried to show them how to use the claw machines. Akiya took on the dance game. She stomped and twirled like she was channeling her inner Love Live idol, stunning everyone into silence. When it was finally coffee time, Akiya boldly ordered the most convoluted coffee name ever. Then, in classic Akiya fashion, she tried to show the whole class how to drink the coffee, but got her tongue burned instead. Meanwhile, Karen was busy snuggling a puppy like it was a rare Pokemon. As the girls tried to figure out this whole texting thing, Hakua, still back at the academy, clutched a stuffed animal Kimito had given her. Kimito and the girls are off to the shopping mall to learn the ancient ways of retail therapy. During the trip, Akiya took on the role of fashion sensei and explained to her clueless friends why pants with giant holes in them were on the high side of the demand chain. Seeing Akiya fitting in, Kimito sighed in relief, knowing that his mission to normalize these highborn ladies was progressing. But as he wandered around, he bumped into Karen, who was intensely studying a set of clothes like she was trying to decipher the secret to KFC chicken. Kimito suggested she try them on. Now, instead of a polite thanks, Karen's response was to whip out her katana. Fast forward to nighttime, and Akiya found herself rooming with Reiko. Akiya decided to send a heartfelt message to the class, explaining why she had kept her distance and why she now wanted to be friends. But knowing Reiko's knack for words, she asked for help with it. Reiko pretended it was a bother, but secretly gave some pretty solid advice. The message, once revised, revealed Akiya's struggle and how she longed to be accepted. The next day started off with Miyuki doing her usual job of shaking Kimito awake. He couldn't help but wonder if she really hated him as much as she claimed, considering she did all this extra homework for him. Breakfast was lively, and the girls invited Akiya to join them, which made both Kimito and Reiko smile, glad to see Akiya was starting to fit in. Later, Kimito ran into her at the elevators and congratulated her on finally breaking the ice. But then he declared that the Commoner Club was no longer needed. Later, Kimito peacefully went into the hot baths. The ladies came back, and now he has to hide in the water behind Akiya. One of the girls noticed something fishy. To make things worse, his oxygen-deprived brain misfired, and he ended up grabbing the wrong tushy, and he got a kick to the face, knocking him out underwater. Akiya, realizing he was now unconscious, yanked him out and started resuscitation. And at that moment, the god of plot twist was not done. At that exact moment, two more girls waltzed in, gasped, and promptly labeled it the kiss of forbidden love. Kimito woke up just as things were spiraling into gossip territory. By lunchtime, Kimito noticed a weird shift in the atmosphere. Girls were whispering, giggling, and shooting him curious glances. Then Akiya broke the news. Word spread that they were dating and consummating heavily at any given chance. Karen caught wind of this scandal, charged at him, delivered a solid ninja punch, and stormed off. Fast forward a couple of hours, and our favorite duo, Akiya and Kimito, were chatting about a hilarious app that predicted the future. Akiya was all hyped up, claiming the app was as accurate as a crystal ball. When the app gave a prediction, Akiya thought she hit the jackpot. So, being the good friend he was, Kimito decided to guess her lucky color. He dressed her up in green, donned a mask, and handed her bean branches. He made her dance around the room too. Just then, Hakua, Karen, and Reiko stumbled in and saw what was going on. After some chit-chat about the app, they all wanted a glimpse into their futures. First up was Reiko, who found out she was destined for success in administrative jobs. Hakua got her fortune revealed too. Apparently she was meant to be an artist scholar. And then there was Karen, who approached the app like it was an ancient relic. The prediction said she was serious and aloof, but her charisma shone through like a diamond. Karen tried to deny it, but her friends just nodded in agreement like a council of wise sages. After some more predictions, Karen stumbled upon a compatibility test app, and it was game on. Everyone lined up to see how well they matched with Kimito. First, Reiko got a whopping 90% compatibility, making her squeal with delight. Reiko followed suit with 85%, tossing playful jabs at Akiya. Then it was Hakua's turn, and she got a solid 70%, shrugging it off like it was no big deal. Finally, Karen stepped up, but when she scored a miserable 30%, she was ready to go full-on samurai on Kimito. The bickering between Reiko and Akiya flared up again, and Karen was having none of it. Kimito suggested they whip up some potato cakes, and off he and hungry Hakua went. The next day, Kimito woke up with his trusty maid still at his side. He casually asked her why she watched him sleep. She said she had no obligation to answer his dumb question. Kimito suggested he use the alarm function on his phone instead of her waking him up with the gaze of a warrior ninja at dawn. Kimito later found himself in a corridor, absorbed in videos on his phone, a wrestling video. Karen came out of nowhere and displayed her skills with the katana in elegance and, lol, we know she just wants to hump his meat. As Kimito observed her rather sparse decor, Karen explained that simplicity was key for those who walk the path of the sword. She tore his shirt, so she took him to her room and then offered him tea and scuttled off to grab her sewing tools. Kimito noticed the adorably random bunny decorations. When she returned, dressed in their previous shopping haul, Kimito couldn't help but compliment the beauty that she radiates in dressing like a common girl. Those thighs, though, he was proclaiming she'd make an amazing wife. She took off his undershirt to sew, but it turns out she wanted to ride his meat so bad. She couldn't wait till she was done stitching his shirt. Suddenly, Reiko, Hakua, and Akiya barged in, expecting to find them doing sewing things, but instead found an empty room. Clearly, they had hidden in the wardrobe. Kimito didn't understand why they were hiding until he noticed Karen's reaction to the wardrobe situation. Then, the wardrobe door collapsed, and Akiya picked up Kimito's phone, only to see him and Karen posing like martial arts experts. Thinking fast, Kimito improvised, claiming it was one of those games for fortune-telling. One fine evening, Hakua found herself in a bit of a food slump. Sitting there staring at her untouched meal, she started to reminisce about that silly compatibility app. The app had practically declared her and Kimito a 0% match. Talk about getting friend-zoned by technology. A bit of a bummer for Hakua, especially since she had drawn Kimito's face on her food like some bizarre edible tribute. Noticing this, her ever-observant maid stepped in, spotting not only the face-doodled plate but also a mini-stuffed doll of Kimito. The maid's eyes widened, as if she had just discovered a hidden treasure chest. The maid, practically bubbling with excitement, sprinted off to report this juicy piece of gossip to the other maids. They all huddled together like some secret girl squad, giggling and plotting a scheme to nudge Kimito closer to Hakua. The next morning, the girls gathered in Kimito's room, and the conversation took a sharp turn toward maid cafes. Kimito, ever the man of random trivia, enthusiastically explained the concept to them, a place where waitresses acted as maids. One of the girls scratched her head, wondering why commoners didn't have real maids if they were so popular in manga. It was as if someone had asked why Goku doesn't just use instant transmission to solve all his problems in Reiko Dragon Ball Reiko. Kimito quickly clarified that maid cafes were just a fantasy. No one actually has maids running around serving them tea in real life. Inspired by Kimito's talk, Reiko decided it was time for some field research. A quick booking later, and the squad was off to a real maid cafe. But when they arrived, Kimito got a surprise bigger than a Naruto filler arc. His friends were all dressed up in maid outfits, pretending to be the waitresses. Reiko, with the determination of a shonen protagonist, called him master and asked him to order, while Akiya looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. As they bumbled through the act, Kimito realized these girls were as far from the professional maids of the cafes as a goldfish is from mastering water-style jutsu. Still, he tried his best to guide them through the process. When Kimito asked for an omelet, the girls tried their hardest to serve it with love, but it was about as romantic as watching someone try to parallel park. Hakua, ever the quirky one, decided a round of rock, paper, scissors was the best way to entertain him. That's when Reiko suggested they add a little performance to the mix. Reiko, always up for a challenge, stepped forward to belt out a song, and the moment she started, it was like the universe cried out in pain. Glass shattered, the walls trembled, and even the cafeteria staff looked like they might dive for cover. So much for being the next pop idol. With Reiko and Akiya now arguing about her questionable vocal talents, Karen took charge of Hakua. While the professional maids peered through the door, taking notes like they were studying a rare animal in the wild. Kimito couldn't help but point out that maid cafes were supposed to be more about pampering, not whatever this was. The maids seemed intrigued by the show. After the disastrous cafe visit, Kimito found himself resting on a garden bench when Aqua's maid approached, thanking him for handling the chaos earlier. The maid, sensing an opportunity, invited him to see the maids in action. Curiosity piqued. He agreed and found himself in Hakua's lab, where the girl was deep in a creative trance. The maids scurried around, taking notes like they were documenting a rare species. When Hakua snapped out of it, the maids rushed in, tidying up and dressing her up in a flash. Kimito could barely keep up with the whirlwind of activity. Then, they moved to another room, an oversized sandbox of all things, which Hakua apparently used to clear her mind. Before he knew it, he was roped into building a sandcastle with her. It was a cute moment, but the entire time, the maids watched like hawks. One even tried to accidentally drop a spoon to make Kimito share food with Hakua, subtle as a sledgehammer. So, it's a new day, and Kimito calls Akiya to come to his room. The moment she hears this, she's as nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof, thinking this is some sort of romantic rendezvous. After all, who invites a girl to their room alone without sparking some blushing cheeks, right? Once she arrives, Kimito is grinning like he's got a secret. He invites her to sit on the bed and then hands her a box. Akiya, sweating bullets, opens it to find a bright yellow suit. Yup, just when she thought it might be something romantic, he hands her a banana-colored costume. Meanwhile, Akiya, in her flashy suit, runs into Reiko in the hallway. Reiko's green-eyed monster rears its head, jealous that Kimito gave Akiya a present. Akiya, feeling smug, suggests Reiko try the gesture herself. Reiko, always eager to one-up, asks how many people know about it. Akiya casually drops that it's used by thousands worldwide, like it's some sort of hidden jutsu that every commoner learns at birth. Reiko, with a glint in her eye, decides she wants in on this trend. Soon, both girls are awkwardly flapping their arms around, convinced they're mastering the fine art of GS. Kimito, still chasing Akiya, finally stumbles into the classroom only to find chaos. Every girl is now wearing a yellow suit and performing the gesture. It's like watching a bizarre flash mob where everyone is dressed as mustard bottles. Kimito, jaw hanging open, realizes his little joke has turned into a full-blown epidemic. Later, back in his room, Reiko overhears Kimito talking to a friend on the phone. He's grumbling about how difficult it is being surrounded by girls all the time and missing having any guy friends. Reiko's heart sinks. She thinks he's planning to leave. Panicking, she gathers the other girls, and they hatch a plan to keep him from going. So, they try to imitate all of Kurito's most manly behaviors. The result? A laughable disaster. They start ogling girls' thighs, making lame jokes, and talking about muscles as if they're in the middle of JoJo's bizarre adventure scene. Then they go the extra mile and ask a maid to bring in a muscle suit, but there's only one. They decide who wears it with rock, paper, scissors. Akiya wins and gets to wear the outfit, but they all agree it looks awful. Instead, they slap on a ponytail, a bow tie, and even drench it in yakiniku seasoning to add a manly smell. Once the squad is ready, they march over to Kimito's room like some weird gang of meat-scented samurai. Kimito, seeing them dressed like dollar store superheroes, bursts into laughter, asking why they smell like a barbecue gone wrong. They awkwardly explain they heard he was leaving because there aren't enough guys around, so they tried to fix the problem by becoming his brothers. Kimito assures them he's not going anywhere, probably because no one else could ever be this weirdly entertaining. As they chat and watch the sunset, Kimito realizes something. Despite all their antics, these girls genuinely care about him. Maybe staying at this crazy academy isn't such a bad idea after all. So, things get interesting when Reiko suggests something sneaky, a secret date. But she tries to pass it off as just a simple flower arranging class. She's clearly got more in mind, even asking Kimito to call her by her first name. The next day, all the club members gather to decide what activity to do, and Reiko casually drops a reminder to Kimito about their earlier discussion. This catches Akiya's attention immediately. She can't stand the idea of being left out of the loop. Karen joins in too, pretending she's not curious, but she's dying to know as well. Before they can pry further, a group of maids barges in looking for Reiko. They say the headmistress wants to see her. The twist? They're looking for Kimito too. Everyone's puzzled, and then, BAM! Reiko's family members, Mami and Hao, have arrived at the academy. Mami is fuming, insisting that having a boy at a girls-only academy is like inviting a wolf into a sheep's pen. The headmistress tries to calm her down, explaining that Kimito was chosen specifically to avoid any problems, but Mami's having none of it. It's clear there's more drama brewing. Mami starts acting like a bulldog, throwing hostile glares at Kimito. Reiko steps in furious at her relative's behavior. The tension spikes until Miyuki reveals that Kimito is only interested in men's muscles. Mami rolls her eyes, calling him a weirdo, but the situation takes a sharp turn. Reiko's mother steps forward and solemnly announces that Reiko's engagement has been finalized. She's to leave the academy and marry the son of a prominent family in a few days. Reiko is devastated. Her eyes darted between her friends, filled with confusion and despair. Later, Kimito tells the news to the others. They're all stunned. Akiya explains the real purpose of the academy, to groom young ladies for marriage into prestigious families. Kimito asks if they're truly okay with this setup. The silence and lowered heads speak louder than any words. He knows Reiko isn't happy, so he suggests they do something crazy, break the engagement. Sometime later, in the courtyard, the group bumps into Mami again. She's acting odd, and before leaving, she tries to secretly pass them her email, signaling that she might be on their side. Just then, her mother shows up, dragging her away. The team, now without Reiko, finds themselves at a loss. The absence hits hard, and even stubborn Akiya finally admits she misses her. They discover that Reiko's phone is restricted, but Hakua, ever the tech genius, tweaks it to turn it into a normal phone. Akiya calls Reiko that night and begs her not to leave. Reiko reveals that she doesn't want to go but feels trapped by duty. Akiya, frustrated, vows they'll find a way out. The next day, she tells Kimito, and they hatch a plan with Karen and Hakua. They realize Mami might not be as thrilled about the marriage either. Hakua manages to retrieve Mami's secret message, confirming that she wants to talk. Kimito confronts Mami, curious why he's assisting them. Mami explains that while he can't defy his sister due to his family's status, he can help them in other ways. As they approach Reiko's mansion, they notice guards with shields and heightened security. Suspicious, Mami suggests that someone might have tipped off their mother. Akiya takes out her binoculars and spots guards carrying wooden swords. This revelation sets Karen off, itching for a fight. Without a second thought, she charges forward, sending guards flying and dust billowing into the air. Karen smashes through a wall, creating a large hole for everyone to sneak in. Despite the overwhelming number of guards closing in, Karen urges them to keep moving. Unfazed, she unleashes her whirlwind technique, leaving the guards completely exposed and humiliated. As Kimito and the others race inside, they're intercepted by Takia, who stalls Mami with some chit-chat before getting serious. Meanwhile, Kimito, Akiya, and Hakua navigate the mansion corridors, facing drones that Akiya handles effortlessly by throwing shattered vase pieces like a pro. Just as they're making headway, security doors start shutting around them. Hakua sprints towards the control room but nearly trips. Kimito catches her, and they continue onward. The last door seems to slam shut, but their muscular buddies from earlier arrive just in time, holding it open long enough for Hakua to squeeze through. She punches in the access codes and the doors slide open, freeing the path again. They finally reach a massive chamber, only to be met by a hulking robot guarding the way. The robot is ready to squash them when suddenly, Karen bursts in, dressed in a ridiculous samurai outfit with kitty ears. In a single mighty swing, she obliterates the robot and strips it bare. Everyone is stunned, but they manage to slip past the wreckage and reach the main hall where the marriage arrangements are taking place. Inside, the atmosphere is tense. Reiko's mother coolly asks them to leave, saying they're interrupting, but Kimito stands his ground, declaring his opposition to the marriage. The mother claims it's Reiko's choice, but he insists she's only bowing to family expectations. The woman dismisses his protests, saying he's a commoner who can't grasp their world's traditions. Kimito fires back, stating that despite their differences, they've all become friends and share an unbreakable bond. Akiya steps up, urging Reiko to follow her own heart instead of letting others decide her future. Even after everyone pleads, Reiko's mother remains unmoved. Finally, Reiko musters her courage and announces she's leaving the family. Her mother lays out the consequences. She'll lose her status and become a regular student. Kimito, undeterred, promises her a freer, happier life. Reiko, overjoyed, chooses to stay with Kimito and the others. Surprisingly, Reiko's father supports her decision, and the opposing family quietly agrees to drop the engagement, pretending the whole debacle never happened. As they leave, Reiko's mother smiles, telling her daughter she can marry whoever she wants. Kimito's left baffled, realizing that her words almost sounded like a proposal. As Reiko starts planning her new future, her friends overhear jealousy around Kimito, still determined to win his affection. Back at the academy, Kimito apologizes for any confusion. Reiko brushes it off, reminding him to start using her first name. When the rest of the gang barges in, a squabble erupts over who deserves Kimito's attention the most. Amidst the chaos, Hakuya, in her usual quirky manner, starts drawing bizarre symbols on the wall. By the day's end, Kimito finds himself in the headmistress's office, discussing how his earlier antics have somehow caused the entire academy to spiral into chaos. I can't believe this guy held up his gaylordness until the end. Do you think he's going to break out of the lie and go on a pin and rearrange the womb rampage? Who knows? But what I do know is that if you like and subscribe, you'll be the first to get notified when we drop the next video.